All right, Adam, starting Pac-12 play this week, and but first, before the bus turned the page on the CSU game, let's talk about that real quick because it was obviously an epic victory, and nothing we expected, but still one of the more entertaining games I know I've covered, and maybe I've heard this talk, but best Rocky Mountain Showdown ever.
One of the best. The Lightning game with Joel Klatt was a fun evening down in Denver too.
Yeah.
And that had Jeremy Bloom making big plays, and that was a fun atmosphere as well. But because there were so many people nationally watching this football game, maybe that elevates this one to the number one spot in terms of the Rocky Mountain Showdown. It's like when you're covering the game, obviously we realized in the moment that this was pretty incredible comeback, and what Shedeur did down the stretch was really impressive. But it sets in more when you rewatch it and you really step back and look at what he did on those clutch drives in overtime in terms of his efficiency. It was really impressive stuff. I don't know how guys like that can be put in such a pressure situation and it doesn't look like their heart rate goes up at all. I have a lot of respect for guys that can handle that pressure and perform the way that Shedeur did.
Yeah, and he talked about the Brady moment, and that was one of the things that, Tom Brady had done it so many times that it's no big deal. Shadeur's been in it a few times now, and so it's like, yeah, whatever, let's just go down and score. It was impressive to watch that, but not only him, but, guys like Xavier Weaver, Mikey Harrison, unbelievable. A lot of these things we talked about afterwards. But to me, as we're getting here on a Tuesday, you look at the viewership of these things, over 9 million viewers for an 8 p.m. kickoff on ESPN, and that's the highest one of the season. You've got over 25 million viewers in 3 weeks. This is impressive.
Yeah, and it doesn't really seem to be losing steam now. If they suffer a loss or two, then maybe that will have some type of impact there. But they really are America's team at this point. Now, there's some people that, for whatever reason, don't like Coach Prime and are rooting against Colorado. But generally, I think Americans love the underdog story. And Coach Prime comes here and takes over the worst team in the country. And so I think that part of it's playing into it. And then, of course, all the celebrities that are around the program these days. It's kind of a perfect storm to create all this attention. And it goes back to a point that I felt at times under some previous coaches here, when our access as media was limited, I felt that the really diehard fans lost interest because they didn't feel that attachment to this football program. So with Coach Prime coming in and well-off media and Uncle Neely and Darius and all the content that people have to consume, they can get such an intimate feel with this football team and really form connection with them that otherwise they just wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's some of those people that are tuning in to see them fail. And Coach Prime will probably say, great, fine, tune in. Come watch us. We're going to put on a good show. And they did that. And, I love Shiloh's comment, when he walked in the press conference on Saturday night. Well, that was worth the price of admission. It certainly was. And another thing, the Buffs sold out the Arizona game. So everything is sold out. First time in the history of this program, they've sold out every game. And I can't believe we're seeing that, there's been like 4 sellouts the last 15 years combined, and here we are seeing this entire season sold out. We kind of thought it would happen, but now that it's here, it's pretty amazing.
It really is, and it goes all the way back to the spring showcase, which they sold out. And that was kind of a hint of things to come because, you could pretty much count the fans that were at the spring game in previous years. And so it's been pretty evident since the jump that this was just going to be different. And now Fox Big Noon Kickoff is going to be back here next week for the USC game, which has a potential, especially if Colorado pulls the upset off this week or plays really close with Oregon. I think that USC game is going to have so many viewers as well.
Yeah, you're looking at, regardless of what happens in Eugene this week, you're looking at 2 of the best quarterbacks in the country playing against each other. Looks like maybe not Travis Hunter, but at least 2 of the best quarterbacks. We'll talk about that later on. But one other thing, Coach Prime today, he kind of backed, CSU safety Henry Blackburn today and said, hey, we forgive him. That's a play. The kid's just trying to make a play. And, he said whatever it was, regardless of how you feel about that play, the kid does not deserve death threats, and really said there's no place for that. And so I thought that was important for Deion to step up and say that today.
Yeah, certainly things shouldn't go to that extreme. Now it's just tough because when you rewatch that play, it's just harder to stomach because it's clear that it's an incomplete pass, and obviously he made a mistake, and I'm sure Henry Blackburn, if he had an option, wouldn't do that again. So it shouldn't get to that level, but I think a lot of it's on Jay Norvell. It just felt like the way he had fired up that team, they were playing dirty football out there for different points of that game. And so I put a lot of the onus on the coaches there at Colorado State, he really didn't want to address the issue afterwards. So, two wrongs don't make a right. And so people need to lay off Henry Blackburn. He's already taken a lot of flack for this, and I'm sure learned a lesson here, hopefully.
Yeah. Shiloh had a little bit different tone than his father, and he said, "Hey, it was a dirty play, and I kind of wanted to beat the guy afterwards." But that's in the moment. These are kids that are defending their friends, things like that. But the bottom line is, I think even Shiloh would say that there's no place for the death threats too, and it's just football, and there's emotions that run high. That's what happened. That's kind of what made the Rocky Mountain Showdown really fun the other night. But in some ways, it's what took away from it. Is some of those emotions ran over a little bit too much.
The biggest bummer in the whole thing is that Travis Hunter doesn't get to play football the next few weeks, and it's not just for Colorado fans. Just he's a transformational type of talent in college football, and so the fact that he's not going to have a chance to make it run at that Heisman now, maybe he comes back in 3 weeks and goes on some crazy run, but it's just tough when you miss games to still be in the running for that. So that's the biggest shame in all this.
Yeah, if you only play 10 or 9 games, you got to be really, really special in those 10 or 9 games. But speaking of corner, Travis won't play this week. I asked Coach, what do you do there? And he said, well, it'll be a committee. And I said, well, how's Cormani McLean? Is he ready? He said, no. And I said, well, what's keeping him back? He said, he is. I thought that was interesting. A very short answer, but very telling as well. That they don't think Cormani McLean's ready.
It was tough because he got here so late. Had he been an early enrollee and gone through spring ball and been through all of summer, maybe he would have had the ability to kind of catch up. It just clear from some of the behind-the-scenes videos that he's just behind, and it's going to take some time. But there are glimpses that he's shown since he's been here that back up why he was so highly regarded. It's just you can't compare guys like to Travis Hunter, right?
Yeah.
He is a generational type player.
Right.
Cormani McLean is going to be a really good player. It's just going to take a little bit more time than a lot of folks want.
Yeah, and I know Buff fans. This would seem like the perfect time to bring Cormani in now that you don't have Travis. Hey, take one 5-star out, put another one in. He's not quite ready, but that's going to put the onus on Amarian Cooper, Kendrick Breedlove, guys like that have got to step up. Hopefully, he didn't talk about Carter Stoutmeyer, but hopefully he's healthy because he didn't play against CSU. So, anything else from today?
Well, Kendrick Breedlove is the guy that, as we got lightning going on here. He's the guy that really needs to step up for this defense because a defense is only as good as its weakest link, and we saw with those crossing routes that teams are going to take advantage when you have a weakness, and so the onus is on him to step up big time at that cornerback spot.
Yeah, and that defense is going to face a big challenge this week. Shiloh Sanders addressed that and said he feels like this is the week they can kind of come together on that defense. They have to, don't they?
Definitely, without question.
Yeah, awesome. We'll be back later on this week for more analysis.